Right, hello everyone. Got the new camera working, can you see it? And sorry if you can hear the fan that's in the room, it's so hot here, I have to have a fan going. But yes, we're going to be talking about Charles Watson tonight. I've actually done a timeline of his movements from when he moved to California right up until the Burning Crow thing. And I'll show you that briefly, and I'll turn that into some kind of slides that I'll share in the Facebook group and Reddit and that. And then we're going to talk about, just all the other stuff about Tex. So there might be some repeated material if you're a regular viewer, but it's all about just saying it all in one place. And we're going to talk about the Joe Dorgan hypothesis a bit briefly, and there's a couple of other things that I'm going to mention that I've not talked about before, and that sort of thing. Yes, I wanted to tell you something about the YouTube tab, the YouTube channel now. Only on your phone, but if you watch on your phone, if you're a subscriber, you can now post on the community tab. I'm sorry for the low-tech way of doing this, but I can't be bothered to do the screen recording. But you see the big button there that says view community, that one. It says visit community, you hit that, and then when you're there, hit newest, and then you're seeing all the community posts. And now subscribers can post, so you can talk to each other in there. If you don't have any other social media, like Reddit or Facebook or whatever, you can now use the community tab. So I just wanted to tell people about that. But that only works on your phone, not through the channel if you're looking on the computer, weirdly enough. But yeah. How is everyone? Yeah, Dawn's back. Dawn's alright. Yay. Yeah, does the camera look better? It's not moving at the moment. I haven't got the drivers installed, but it does refocus if I move back and stuff like that. You might see it refocus. Yeah. It's not doing the full AI thing, but it looks a bit better, doesn't it? Thank you. I use donations. Thank you for buying me a coffee, people, because yeah, I've used it now to get a better camera and that. Yeah. Excellent. And the Substack I'll be doing the what Sharon Tate saw at what Mama Cass saw at Sharon Tate's house stream. There's the next Substack post as well. Yeah, looking at that. So yeah, I will share that on the community tab and everywhere as soon as I've done it. And yeah, please subscribe to the Substack if you haven't already. You subscribe by clicking on the button in one of the posts and giving your email address. Yes. Did you like it? It does look better, doesn't it? Definitely. So it's not moving at the moment because I've not installed the drivers on this laptop, but it will. It does. I saw it when it was running through my computer. It did. Yeah. But yeah, let me show you this timeline of text because it's. No, that's the wrong one. There, that's the one. Right, and that's the last slide. Won't dwell on this too long, but I've never seen anyone else do this in quite so much detail. So yeah. He moved from Texas in the spring of 1967. He's from Denton, Texas, and he's a business major at North Texas State College. He worked for Braniff Airlines at DFW as a baggage handler. He's a church-going, clean-cut, small-town Texan. And then summer of 1967, he starts taking trips to LA. He reconnected with a college friend, David Neal, who had moved to Los Angeles. He used Braniff half-fare perks to make these three short trips to LA. On his fourth trip, late August 1967, he decided to pack up and move permanently. Echo Park, September 1967. He stayed 2 or 3 weeks with David and Jay Neal in Echo Park near Silver Lake, right in the emerging LA hippie scene. And then he moved to Laurel Canyon, late 1967 to April 1968. He took classes at Cal State, LA, worked for a wig company. This is the period where he worked for the wig company. And moved with Neal to Wonderland Avenue, Laurel Canyon, and lived here for 7 months. And this is when he tries rosewood seeds, psychoactive, and had intense hallucinations. And the room seemed to close in on his head, and he smashed his hand through a door, and David Neal had to restrain him. He talks about this in his psychiatry report. And then he's in Malibu between April and May 1968. He moved with Neal to a beach house at 18162 Pacific Coast Highway, Malibu, getting closer to the celebrity and rock scene. And then he's at Dennis Wilson's house, May 1968. He met Dennis Wilson of the Beach Boys when he picked him up hitchhiking. And that's Tex picked up Dennis Wilson. Dennis Wilson was the hitchhiker. Right? And he moved into Wilson's Sunset Boulevard house. There, Watson first met Manson and the family women. August the 29th, 1968, the Morehouse trip. Well, that's the court date that Dean Morehouse was attending, but this is when he goes off in Terry Melcher's car with Dean Morehouse to attend a court case. He drove up north with Dean Morehouse in Terry Melcher's Jaguar for Morehouse's court hearing. Just days later, he would be staying at Spahn Ranch. And then he's at Spahn Ranch, September 1968. He arrived at Spahn with Dean Morehouse. Manson didn't trust them yet, made them sleep in a separate tent. He soon integrated fully, and David Neal visited and noticed heavy LSD use, blank stare, and emotional flatness in Tex. And November 1968, the Candyman bus trip. Right, this is when Manson sent Tex and others north in a school bus to meet the Candyman for drugs. Some speculate this was Charles Winans. I've done streams about who Charles Winans is. And when he returned, Tex called Neal terrified and said, "I'm losing myself, frightened of Manson and the girls," and he felt like he was going insane. So then he runs off again. Highland Park and Rosina Kroner, December 1968 to early 1969. After fleeing Spahn, he stayed with David Neal at Highland Park, and when Neal was drafted, the 2nd of December 1968, Tex moved in with Neal's girlfriend, Rosina Kroner, and he later pulled Rosina Kroner into the Bernard Crow scam. And if he was associated with bikers at any time, it's during this time when he's staying with Rosina. This becomes relevant later. This must be the time. Right, but back to Spahn Ranch in February and March of 1969. He returns to live at Spahn Ranch full-time, now deeply absorbed in the family's ideology, so he says. April 22nd, 1969 is the Belladonna arrest. He's arrested by LA County Sheriff's deputies near Spahn Ranch for being under the influence of belladonna. Though it wasn't belladonna, it's actually datura, same plant family, but much stronger. And he's briefly jailed, but released. Only arrested for intoxication. June 1969, last contact with Neal. Neal, home on leave before Vietnam. Tex visited with 3 family girls, including Patricia Krenwinkel. Neal was shocked, said he'd lost weight, chain smoking, blank stare, preached Helter Skelter, and he wasn't the same person. And then July 1st is the Bernard Crow incident. Tex set up a £2,500 marijuana rip-off on Bernard Crow. Led directly to Manson shooting Crow in Hollywood, believing he had killed him, though he actually lived, and becoming extremely paranoid as he mistakenly believed Crow was linked to the Black Panthers, and they would seek revenge. So it made Manson really paranoid. He thought he had killed Crow, but he actually hadn't. And Crow was not linked to the Black Panthers. And then after that, all the next things he does is the Cielo Drive and La Bianca. But I'll turn that into slides so you can see it. Yeah. Yeah. This is the crazy thing. This is what people don't talk about as well. And also, Dean Morehouse was the first person to give Tex LSD, not Manson. He actually spent a lot of time with Dean Morehouse as well. And you can see how much time he spent away from Manson as well. If you look at that timeline, he actually spent much less time with Manson than he did away from him while he was in California. So, yeah, it's weird. Yeah, and Tex was the reason, yeah, because it was because Tex refused to go and sort out the situation, didn't he? Yeah. Which shows he wasn't really a brainwashed soldier, does it, if he refused to do what Manson had told him to do? Doesn't it, yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I just got the chat for a second. Yeah. Yeah, this is the other weird thing about that story. Yeah, Dennis Wilson was the one hitchhiking, and it was Tex that picked him up, not the other way around. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he had his own cars, but he liked living like a pauper, didn't he? Apparently, yeah, he just walked around like that. Yeah, yeah. Rosewood. I did look into it, and it does seem like they might be the seeds out of the Jimson weed plant, the Datura plant. So that may have been Datura, and it's really quite mysterious who gave him them as well. That seems quite suspicious that someone gave him something that may have been Datura that early. Yeah. Yeah, it does become difficult to believe now, doesn't it? Once you find out, but a lot of people, don't want to believe stuff about the Beach Boys, do they? That's it. But yeah, it is quite dark. And Dennis Wilson being bisexual as well, and having a relationship with Charles Manson. A lot of people can't get their heads around that, but now I believe that's true totally. as well. But yeah, no, a lot of people don't want to hear that, do they? Yeah, it is very, very strange. And there's been a lot of, they call it legacy management, don't they? Yeah, to try and save the Beach Boys' legacy. But really, it shouldn't taint the rest of them. Because Brian did record Manson, but he didn't get involved with the girls like Dennis did. You know what I mean? It shouldn't shame the rest of the Beach Boys. It was Dennis that did all this, you know. Yeah. And they sang one song, didn't they? That was written by Manson originally. Yeah, and the lyrics had been slightly changed. Yeah. I don't believe he actually said that about Tex saying he was the devil and there to do the devil's business. Yeah. In his trial, he testifies he never said that. And he seems, confused about why anyone seems to have said that. I'm going to get to what he said in court in a minute as well. It's one of the major points, yeah. Really strange ones. Yeah. The Beach Boys were good boys. Until, yeah, the cameras were off. And then a different sort of cameras came up. No. Yeah, I'll get to the main presentation. So it gives us something better to talk about. Right, we'll move here now. There we go. Right. This is the other crazy thing as well. You know, there's this story that he cut a screen to climb in through the window. This is the official narrative, right? But if you read what he said to all the psychiatrists and what he actually says in court, right, he never says that he came in through the window. He says he walked in through the front door. Tex always said he entered through the front door, not through a window. He testified this under oath at trial and repeated it to every psychiatrist and in later parole hearings. The popular story of him cutting the screen and climbing through a window comes from Bugliosi. It sounded scarier for Helter Skelter. Some say he denied it to avoid burglary charges, but Tex never denied personally stabbing anyone. And, you know, he was up for like 7 counts of murder, wasn't he? So that was the least of his worries, a breaking and entering charge, wasn't it? In fact, he even admitted delivering the final death blows to Abigail Folger and Rosemary LaBianca, and the girls called to him for help. So why lie about the point of entry at Cielo? The simplest answer, he probably didn't. This window story looks like another piece of Manson law. And you hear Susan repeat this as well. Susan says it at the grand jury, and Linda Kasabian says it. So it was obviously part of the story those two girls were given to tell, basically. Yeah. And he also said, did. I never told no one to do nothing that night. That's his famous line as well, isn't it? And also, he was very, very inconsistent in descriptions of who carried the rope and how he came to climb over the fence. So I don't believe any of that anymore. I believe they probably bloody drove up and parked in the parking area like guests. I don't believe any of that they climbed over the fence and cut the phone wires on the way in anymore. It's crazy. Yeah. Hi. No, it's all right. We've only just started. Thanks for coming, man. Good to see you. Uh-huh. Yeah, I've done a time. Well, I'll probably show it again before the end of the stream, but I will make slides for the group. I did a timeline of Tex's time in California, basically. Yeah. Uh, that's all you've missed. And yeah, and this is the first point I'm making is Tex never said he climbed through the window. He always has said he came in through the front door. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. He did with a burglary charge, yeah. On top of slaughtering 5 people too, yeah. So why would he bother to lie about that? You know what I mean? Oh hi Annie. But why would he bother to lie about that? It doesn't make sense, does it? Really. Oh good, yeah, and this was another weird one that came up because this is something that I've always accepted as just like something that happened, right? The nursery window myth, building the legend. Ed Sanders' book, The Family, claims the window was left open to let paint dry in a freshly decorated nursery. Crime scene photos show the room wasn't a nursery at all. Just tables and chairs, no crib, no toys, no sign of painting. The maid never mentioned any redecorating. Police found no nursery equipment and there's no crime report mentioned. Likely invented to make the murders even more poignant, pulling at the heartstrings with the image of a never used nursery. The real tragedy was already devastating. Cheryl was heavily pregnant and slaughtered her own home. Yeah, and this is the picture that supposedly shows the cut screen, and they're just trying to say this was his point of entry. But I always just accepted that there was a nursery. And someone started asking in the group, which room was the nursery? So I started looking into it. And there was never a nursery. It's actually just fiction. They hadn't painted a room to be the nursery. Maybe the Sharon Tate experts might have some idea what room she intended to be the nursery, but it definitely hadn't been painted. that's just part of the law sort of thing. It's not actually real. Oh yes, and this is your repeated material, but this is connecting him to bikers. Manson's cryptic statement about Charles Tex Watson. And this was said on Tomorrow Coast to Coast interview with Tom Snyder, aired June the 12th, 1981. Tex didn't have his own mind one way or another. He was bounced back and forth, because I had already taken his mind down the road in a game I was playing with some Hells Angels that you don't know nothing about, and you probably never will know nothing about it, because you wouldn't have to know that you would have to know those people to get in those thoughts. But there's different colours on different people's backs doing different things. It's a different world. Manson hints Tex's mind was compromised in a game with Hell's Angels before the murders. Suggests deeper bike gang dynamics, manipulation or drug ties we never fully see. Different colours on different backs clearly means biker club patches. Maybe Manson trying to deflect blame, or maybe revealing something darker. Was Tex just a pawn caught in Manson and biker power plays? And let me play you the clip of Manson. It's the sound of him saying it here, just so you get to hear Charlie's voice. So, excuse the silly video.
Tex didn't have his own mind one way or the other. He was balanced back and forwards because I had already took his mind in another game down the road that I was playing with some Hell's Angels that you don't know nothing about, and you probably never will know nothing about it because you would have to know those people to get in that thought, see? But there's different colors on different people's backs doing different things. It's a different world. I love the world I live in, too, just like Regan loves the world he lives in.
So yeah, there you go. Like I say, this is another statement that links Tex to bikers in ways that we don't know anything else about. And Manson sounds really smug, but there is an interesting story there, but he won't tell it, isn't it? Basically, yeah. And as I showed you on the timeline, the time when he's most likely to have been involved with bikers is while he was living with Rosina briefly. And there's the Joe Dorgan hypothesis as well. And let's say, yeah, the first time he was interviewed, he said he walked in the front door. And to all the psychiatrists, he said he walked in the front door. Yeah. Yeah, if anyone needed a forensic psychiatrist, it would be Tex. Yeah. That's like Joel thought, isn't it? But the point is as well that's wrong about that is he's not qualified to give the statement, was he sane at the time of the murders? He's not a psychiatrist. He's just a doctor. And also, a normal psychiatrist, you have to have forensic training to do this assessment. And Bugliosi never made that clear. He could have been used as a drug expert, but he shouldn't have made any sort of statement about whether Tex was sane at the time of the crime or not. And also, yeah, it seems, and he was used in the Patty Hearst trial as well, wasn't he? He was like a media-friendly one. He got them to say things they wanted, basically. Yeah, that's it. Sharon probably did have the last possible open door, yeah. Possibly, yeah, in LA history. Tragically, yeah, because Sharon, Mama Cass started locking her doors after the Manson murders happened, apparently. It had always been open door at hers, yeah. It really freaked everyone out, didn't it, obviously, for obvious reasons. What's the next slide? Oh, yes, this is, yeah, what's going on with him generally. What was really going on with Tex, beyond Manson's orders, his own biker and drug ties. Often portrayed as just a Manson foot soldier, Tex may have had his own agenda. Spent long periods away from the family, living with David Neal and Rosina Kroner, who was dealing drugs. First given LSD, not by Manson, but by LSD pastor Dean Morehouse. Manson later said Tex lost part of his mind in a war with the Hells Angels. In psych reports, Tex said Manson took part of my mind, but never mentioned bikers. I did find a bit where he says that Manson took part of my mind. He doesn't do that one. And observed by psychiatrists smiling whenever Orange Sunshine LSD was discussed. He smiled whenever they said Orange Sunshine LSD, which is tenuous, but it is a link. And yeah, when I asked Nicholas as well, did Manson ever say anything to you that could, be relevant to streams about this? And he said, yeah, Manson told Nicholas that he didn't really know what Tex and Rosina were up to, but they were involved with bikers. So was Tex actually operating his own biker drug schemes right under Manson's nose? And is Manson's trying to claim responsibility for it there, just him trying to big himself up, because actually Tex was off on his own, doing his own deals with the Hells Angels. And Manson's just trying to reinforce the idea that he was telling Tex what to do, when really he obviously had no control over Tex. I no longer believe he had any control over him. Yeah. Yeah, it really does, doesn't it, Mark? Yeah. Well, there's that comedy sketch in there. I show it on After Show sometime because they'll get demonetized. The video won't get monetized in the show. Yeah, where they're taking the piss about Manson saying cryptic things, aren't they? Yeah. His cryptic way of talking and making veiled hints of things, deliberately being vague and ominous, gets a bit tedious. Yeah, yeah. And someone said something about the text tapes as well. I doubt we'll ever hear it, but the official reason that they give is that he talks about other crimes. And I wonder if that could be stuff to do with the bikers and that sort of thing. And like, when I say other crimes, crimes not associated with the Manson family, crimes he's associated with them. So that might be why we're not really hearing them. Yeah, yeah. Oh yes, I've heard this. Yeah, this is the one. There was a Hell's Angel. Yeah, there's supposed to be a bloody Hell's Angel that they had killed or something like that as well. So is it something to do with that? That's why I think maybe they're not showing us the text tapes. And there's no point trying to write to Tex and ask him about this because he's never going to admit it, is he? Why would he? He's not going to admit to another count of murder, is he, at this point? Yeah. Yeah, well, this is one of the most common rumours, isn't it? Yeah, like I say, I've discussed the rumours, but yeah, they say it's to do with whatever the guys up there at Cielo Drive were getting up to, making tapes. And there was definitely a lot of filmmakers associated with that house, a lot of Playboy people that like that sort of lifestyle. So it is not beyond the realms of possibility, is it, that that sort of stuff was going on? But the rumours are it was quite dark and people were drugged and filmed without their consent and all sorts. And the Doyle incident, of course, that we talk about, is supposed to have happened at Cielo Drive after Doyle was drugged, isn't it? And all that sort of thing. Yeah, that's what it's always looked like to me as well. It seems like Manson was training certain members to do home invasion robberies and nighttime burglaries. That's what creepy crawling sounds like, doesn't it? That's cat burglary, isn't it? Sneaking into someone's house really quietly and wearing dark clothing. And they sometimes they didn't even steal stuff, did they? They just moved stuff around to freak people out and things like that. Yeah, yeah. Does Manson make more sense to you than Mark? Yeah, yeah. I don't believe Charlie killed an angel. I don't know. Tex could have though. Tex was fucking capable of it. And maybe, yeah, yeah. They buried him together or some shit. Yeah, yeah. Well, Rosina seems to have been quite an established drug dealer, doesn't it? So yeah. And that's it. This is it. Charlie doesn't really know what happened, but he said that they were involved with bikers, apparently. Yeah, yeah. And I didn't put it on the timeline because I've never been able to confirm it. But there's a rumor that he flew to Mexico with Rosina and she had an abortion. But I didn't bother to put it in the timeline because I've never been able to confirm that was actually true. So, yeah, yeah, that's it. It would have to be murder because there's no statute of limitations. Yeah. So, and if you look at all the bloody newspaper articles about the police coming in to interview them while they were being held before trial, they seem to be suspected of a lot of what were probably the Zodiac murders and stuff like that. There were lots of murders the Manson family were suspected of. And Bo Emerson released PDFs of all the newspaper articles that were shared with the court, so the court knew what was being written in the newspapers, you know. And yeah, there were a surprising number of crimes. Police from other states came to visit to check if they had done it. Basically, yeah. So God knows. I think it could be possibly Zodiac murders, or it could be to do with the killing of a Hell's Angel. Who knows? So all speculation. Yeah, these are the things we've heard. Yeah, that's it. Without all this conspiracy stuff, it's the Tex Watson murders. Everyone says that. Everyone now who's looked at this case says it should be called the Tex Watson murders, not the Charles Manson murders. He was a patsy as such. He was only really guilty of pimping and then covering up for them. He didn't, shop them, and he helped. If you believe he went up, I do. If you believe he went up there and just helped stage the crime scene, then that's another offence. but he wasn't. He didn't order them to do it, which is what he was convicted of, wasn't it? I think it's sick he wasn't done for the human trafficking aspect of the whole thing as well, and that wasn't really talked about. Though it was brought up a little bit in court, some of the exploitation of the girls, but not a lot. I believe Diane Lake and Barbara Hoyt said some things, and I think Linda Kasabian talked about seeing a girl getting forced to do things and stuff like that. Not much of it was talked about in court. Yeah. Manson used his Manson speak for the cameras. Proof is the Diane Sawyer interview outtakes, where once the interview is over, Charlie suddenly talks normally to her. Did you get what you wanted? Yeah, and if you watch the end of that Ronaldo interview as well, they show you a clip at the end as the credits are rolling of him walking up to Ronaldo, and he's got a bit of paper, and he's saying, "Did we get everything?" And he's pointing to a bit of paper. Yeah. They're obviously very, very planned. Yeah. But this is it. This is it. If there was any gay porn and kiddie diddling on video with legendary Hollywood celebrities, of course they'd keep that covered up, wouldn't they? Yeah. Or just people where it's obviously coerced. The person's obviously been tied up and is being worked against their will and stuff like that. That's got to have been illegal even then. Well, any porn was illegal back then, wasn't it? Technically. So yeah, terrible stuff. Yeah. Yeah. What, the Manson family? Do you mean the Manson family, John? No, he pimped out children as well. He pimped out the kids as well. Apparently, the little children that you see in the Hendrickson documentary, one of the guys says in his police interview that those kids were left to play down by the river and people could go down and have access to them. Like they were pimped out that way. So, no, yeah, they totally were child molesters, the Manson family. People try to romanticise it and don't like to look at that aspect of it, but they did. And they gave blowjobs to the babies as well. That's the other gross thing. Blowjobs to infants. Yeah. Oh, yes, and this is the Joe Dorgan hypothesis. And this is just a summary of it. And I'll make sure the link to this is in the description if you're watching this on playback. If you want to read the whole post. But the theory from the Xbox blog. Tex Watson may have been working outside Manson's control, targeting rivals to gain leverage in the LA drug scene. Susan Struthers, Rosemary LaBianca's daughter, was dating Joe Dorgan, a biker linked to the Straight Satans, known for LSD and meth trafficking. Some believe Cielo and LaBianca's weren't chosen at random for Helter Skelter, but were part of an effort to eliminate or intimidate local dealers. Dorgan had ties not just to bikers, but also to circles around the Brotherhood of Eternal Love, LSD networks with outlaw motorcycle gangs. Yeah, blending LSD networks with outlaw motorcycle gangs. So in this theory, Tex used the family as violent muscle, turning Manson's ideology into a convenient cover for hits tied to biker power plays. It reframes the murders, not a cult apocalypse, not as a cult apocalypse, but a ruthless turf war to seize the Hollywood drug market. And it raises big questions. Was Tex the real driver, with Manson's philosophy just a smokescreen for gangland objectives? So, yeah. Well, this kind of falls flat as well. It doesn't go into detail here, but it relies on you believing Rosemary LaBianca had something to do with selling LSD. But that's something that has never been proven. That's just like a rumour you have to accept. You have to believe Rosemary LaBianca was an LSD dealer to swallow this hypothesis. But yeah, I think it's more likely he was linked to the Brotherhood of Eternal Love, personally. And yeah, if you read the full post of this, he doesn't even believe it himself. He's just summarising the theory for you, sort of thing. But yeah, it's an interesting theory, and it's sort of backed up by the fact that Rosemary LaBianca's daughter later made statements for him at a parole hearing, and apparently went so far as to try and befriend Patty Tate and her children to possibly get her to make positive statements for Tex. And it was a really strange situation, and that made me think maybe there was blackmail material on her somehow. Tex was saying, if you don't do this for me, then I'll tell them why we really break into your mother's house or whatever. But again, that's just speculation. Yeah, well, this is the thing, you see. Tex didn't really have anything to do with that, because this is why Tex's drug burn theory and save a brother. And the girls who took part probably took part to save Bobby. They didn't give a shit about Tex and Linda getting ripped off for this MDA or whatever, do they? And it's actually unclear why they targeted the LaBiancas, but this is just one theory, is that, yeah, Rosemary was involved in LSD dealing with her daughter, Susan Struthers, and they had fallen out. And Alice LaBianca is supposed to have said somewhere in the book that she was scared. Rosemary LaBianca was scared of her own daughter for some reason. And they had been selling drugs together. Alice LaBianca is supposed to have confirmed that, apparently. But there's no hard evidence that Rosemary really was. Yeah. And they stole quite a lot more from the LaBianca house than they've admitted as well. But in the end, Leslie is only convicted of robbery. So she's convicted of a burglary at the LaBiancas, and he's not connected to the Cielo Drive crimes anymore. That's how come she's out now, basically. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, really, really crazy. And I've showed it on a past stream, that clip of her talking at his parole hearing and saying, yeah, that they should consider letting him go. And he had at that point only done 13 years as well. That was in 1984. So it's like, my God. Yeah. Yeah, well, this is it. But we can't prove that either, because there's no hard proof that Hinman really did supply the mescaline. That's another thing that's just law that people have pointed out, and also someone else pointed out, but it is a fair point. The mescaline thing never even came up until the 80s. Apparently, all through the 70s, no one wrote anything about that. Suddenly, in the 80s, they start saying that. So yeah, I think they definitely knew Gary Hinman, and the official reason that Ella Joe Bailey gave was that they thought he had stocks and bonds. He had money in stocks and bonds, and they went round to try and get his money. And Mary Brunner backed that up as well. Which, yeah, but yeah, there was also like a rumor that he'd come on. Gary Hinman had come on to Bobby. There was unwanted advances or something, but that was definitely no reason to do what they did to. My God. Yeah, yeah, that's it. Because people that like to romanticize it and make it sound like they were a beautiful hippie commune and they've just been put in a bad light. But the reality is, yeah, the family members were homeless drug addicts that the wind blew to Spahn Ranch with the worst sort of bikers and society's throwaways. And I just did that whole series about while you watch the world burn, and the middle episode of that is about the Vietnam War and the dehumanization training that the men in Vietnam went through. And TJ and was called One and TJ both had done the right sort of combat to have the training. Sorry, I phrased that really badly. Zero was in Vietnam, but he was in the Navy, so he was less likely to have had the dehumanization training. But TJ and One would have had. But yeah, the fact these people were hanging around with people that had just come back from Vietnam and were obviously not the sort that wanted to change back to being non-violent. They were people that would have been violent drug addicts anyway. And they're running around and they've gone and joined bike gangs. And these kids are mixing with them. This is another thing they wanted to cover up, that it was that caused them to become so violent. This is why they had to convince you it was just this one man and it was a freak incident, you know. Yeah, why not? Let's say, yeah, well, they wrote Pig, didn't they? And that was associated with communists and shit like that, wasn't it? So yeah, they didn't go for Pig. Right, Pig. Oh yes, and this was from the Brotherhood of Eternal Love stream. Make sure you've watched that if you haven't already. A violent biker underworld around Cielo Drive. A backdrop of overdoses, hotshots, and biker film sets tied to Cielo Drive. In 1981, Manson said he and Tex were in a game between rival biker gangs. John Donaldson's research points to an LSD turf war between Oakland and LA Hells Angels in the late 60s. John Griggs of the Brotherhood of Eternal Love died of a suspected mescaline overdose August 3rd, 1969, days before the murders. Terry the Tramp, an Oakland Hells Angel and LSD distributor, murdered by a hotshot in February 1970. His killer, Paul Animal Hibbets, lived in LA at a house tied to Dick Zicker, and actress Samantha Egger. Egger and her husband, Tom Stern, had previously lived at 10050 Cielo Drive, the scene of the Tate murders. Stern even starred in biker films with Terry, tying Cielo to this violent underworld. So was Cielo just a random house, or already linked to an explosive biker LSD scene? Like, yeah, that's just another crazy link to the Cielo Drive house, because a lot went on at the Cielo Drive house, and a lot of Hollywood people lived at this house as well. And if they were all like visiting this house at the same time, Charles Watson was visiting Cielo Drive as well. So yeah, it's very, very possible that he did meet bikers and he did meet the Brotherhood of Eternal Love and all that. But yeah, he's not going to confess to even more crimes now, is he? In his old age. He's probably happy to still be thought of as ordered about by Manson, isn't he? That's what he has to contend at parole hearings as well. You know, this is what he's actually convicted of, isn't it? Is there any evidence that anyone besides Susan, Tex, and Linda were drug addicts? Pat Frenwinkle talks about taking an awful lot of LSD in court as well. Though I can't find the transcript of her penalty phase testimony, you can find newspaper articles. And she says she took tons of LSD. And also her sister was a heroin addict, which shows that, and died of a heroin overdose, which shows a genetic predisposition to being addicted to drugs in their family, so it's possible. But, you know, Pat Frenwinkle also admitted really heavy LSD abuse, like overusing LSD. She said she took it hundreds of times. You know, yeah, no, it can. It can cause you, you overheat. It causes your part of your brain called your hippocampus to start fucking up. Yeah, the deliriums, mescaline, and ayahuasca and things like that. Yeah, you can get this thing called serotonin syndrome. Yeah, yeah, it can. And LSD, if you take a massive overdose, yeah, in the end you go into convulsions and you'd overheat and die. They can kill you, yeah, but you'd have to take a very, very large overdose. Yeah. But it sounds like the drugs that the guy from the Brotherhood of Eternal Love took were deliberately too strong or laced with something else. Yeah, that's it. They have no right to bury our transcripts. That's it. But they have. Well, Bo Emerson can't find them because it's not on the website yet. Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, you can die from datura. Datura is atropine. It's literally a poison. Yeah, yeah. So you can overdose on. Yeah, it's a horrible death as well. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, datura is literally atropine. It kills horses as well. There's people that own ranches have to have it cleared off their land because if horses eat it, they die. It's a really, really lethal datura. I wouldn't recommend it. Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that you have to drink a certain amount of alcohol with it to fully absorb it. Mescaline, yeah, that's it. But if they like try to snort it or whatever, then yeah, it would make them vomit worse. But it's a risk that you take that you're going to vomit when you take mescaline. Anyway, yeah, that's the picture of him at Altamont. The picture with the fox of him on the with the fox on his head. That is apparently Animal Hibbert, and that's him at Altamont. No, I don't think he was one of the people that well, they stabbed Meredith Hunter to death. He wasn't one of the people that stabbed Meredith Hunter to death. I don't think there was three tried for it. I think in the end, but I don't think Animal Hibbert. I don't know if he shot anyone as well. But he might have done. Hmm. Yeah, and to be put out in the stage due to acid overheat. Yeah, and if anyone, just in case anyone needs to hear this, right? If you've got, if you're on SSRIs, so a pill like Prozac or any of those, fluoxetine is another name for that. SSRIs, it's a common antidepressant. If you're taking that, don't take ayahuasca. You have to come off it for 2 weeks before you take it. because if you take ayahuasca while on DMT, whilst you're on SSRIs, you can get a thing called serotonin poisoning. Yeah, where you will start to overheat rapidly and eventually go into a coma. Don't mix them with SSRIs. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Alan Passaro, that's his name. That's the one that got convicted of it. Yeah. Yes, Animal the one that punched Marty Bawley? Because I know you see pictures of Sweet William and footage of Sweet William arguing with Marty Bawley as well. So I wondered if it was Sweet William who actually punched him. But no, it was Animal that punched Marty Bawley. It's the guy from Jefferson Airplane, isn't it? Yeah. He got punched by Helter Skelter. Yeah. But no, Animal is the one that's supposed to have killed Terry the Tramp. I might do the deep dive on Terry the Tramp as well next week because I want to talk more about him. He's like an interesting side character to talk about. But yeah, dig up more about this other. But this whole thing, it just points to the fact there was a huge biker drug war going on. There was a lot of stuff going on around this time related to drug wars, and it makes it a bit more plausible, doesn't it, that these murders were somehow related to that, and not just the result of Charles Manson brainwashing these girls. You know? Yeah. Yeah, Animal is the one that's supposed to have given him an overdose. Yeah, a hot shot supplied him with drugs that were laced or deliberately too strong. That's what a hot shot means. Yeah. Right, and are we at the? Yeah, we're kind of on the last slide now. So just yeah, for discussion. So the big takeaway: rethinking the motive. Put it all together. Texas separate life, biker ties, LSD experiments, the misleading psychiatrist, the window myth, the violent biker deaths, and the Helter Skelter starts to look more like a cover story. The Joe Dorgan hypothesis is intriguing, but it falls flat since there's no real evidence Rosemary LaBianca was dealing drugs, only rumours. And anyone who might know more is either dead or not about to confess to crimes that could still land them in trouble. So we may never truly know the full extent of how the late 60s biker gang wars intertwined with the Manson murders and how deep Texas game really went. Like I say, the more we put it out there, the more people will dig and the more people will find. You know, it's amazing what people have unearthed. Like I say, if I hadn't made those videos about Harrigan and Doyle, I never would have spoke to Billy Lippler's kids and found out all this extra stuff about Billy Doyle and finally found pictures of him and stuff like that. You know, so it's worth talking about these things. You know, say John Donaldson found all those connections. That yeah, they connected the Brotherhood of Eternal Love are also vaguely connected to Cielo Drive as well, and all this sort of shit. You know. The more we know, the more like, other people might have stuff to add. You know. Yeah. Oh god, yeah. I had a really bad experience with SSRIs when I was young. Ciroxat. I don't know what the hell they called that one in America, but yeah, it was really bad in this country. Loads of people got suicidal. It's not exactly the same as Prozac. It's the same group of drugs. Yeah. And I had blackouts and everything. Yeah, it was awful, horrible. Yes. I'll have to look at. I'll look for that then. Yeah. So I know Hunter S. Thompson. I sent it to Dawn, didn't I? Dawn, the Hell's Angel having a go at Hunter S. Thompson on TV because he wrote bad things about him. He didn't approve of the woman beating. He saw someone beating his wife once, and this Hell's Angel actually rides his bike into the studio to have a go at him about it. Crazy. Hmm. Yeah, well, it is. Well, this is social history, isn't it? That's the thing. This is the history that won't get recorded except by people like us. You know what I mean? And you know, anyone who's still alive and has memories, and will they share them with us? But like about stuff like this, I can't see really us ever getting a solid conclusion because any Hell's Angel or whatever that was alive that remembered is probably dead now anyway, and they're notoriously mysterious anyway, so they probably still wouldn't talk. And Tex is not going to admit to anything, is it? Because it's another crime. It's an additional crime, so they could charge him with. Yeah, yeah, that's it. Yeah, we were chatting about the thing where I sent you the video, didn't I? Yeah, 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 we see there's new laws coming and she'll be able to appeal it the same way that Leslie did. So like they might end up having to, but he'll do the same thing he did with Leslie. He'll say no, but then his decision will get overturned. So he can say, "Oh, I didn't say." I say yes, I said no. So like he's like the best of both worlds, isn't it, for him? But yeah, if she does get out, it'll be on appeal like Leslie did, I imagine. But who knows? But I was waiting until there's any big development in the case before I bothered to do a stream. But yeah, I wanted to talk about that as well at some point. The criminal situation. Mm. Yeah, the door situation. Well, like I say, well, the fact that they did that to him, the actual incident, as we call it. Yeah, but I just found the guy fascinating. He had a really interesting life. And unfortunately, there's things that I can't say because his family haven't released it yet. But I've heard a bit more about him, and he's more interesting. But now Nicholas has interviewed uh, Reagan for his film, so you might hear more from her. But his son, I think, sadly, I've heard it says in Chaos that Billy Doyle was a really paranoid man, and I think it's rubbed off on his son. I think Ransom is paranoid as well, so this is why he'll never talk. But there are grandkids, so maybe there's a chance the grandkids will tell us something, but you might not ever hear anything, sadly. But there's more pictures of him apparently too. It's so sad it's never going to come out. But, yeah, and I found out as well that first time it's referred to being filmed is in Ed Sanders' book way back in the 70s. He calls it, not my words, he calls it as video buggered. He says Billy Doyle was video buggered. But I've never seen anyone else say that it was filmed, but Ed Sanders. But I've heard that rumour as well. We've all heard that, haven't we? Yeah. There's a rumour that there was a film of the Doyle thing. Chat, was it? Right, sorry. No, I was just reading the chat. Right, well, we're like come to the end of that now. So yeah, we can just chat for the rest of the time, and I'll eventually do an after show. I'll let it run till we've been going an hour, and we can just chat for a little while. But yeah, I just wanted to get all that out in one place. Oh, and I'll show the timeline again briefly, just in case anyone didn't see it at the beginning. There you go. The last page. Like I said, I'll turn this into slides that I can share on Reddit and the Facebook group and that. Yeah, he arrives. Well, he leaves Texas in '67 to go and stay with his friend David Neal, and then he moves to Echo Park. I read all this out in more detail earlier, and like I said, I'll make this available for people to look at. And then he's in Laurel Canyon, and he started classes at Cal State, and this is when he works at the wig shop. And he moved with Neil to Wonderland Avenue, Laurel Canyon, and lived there for 7 months, right near what do you call it? Oh, Lookout Mountain as well, apparently. Another weird coincidence. And this is where he tries the rosewood seeds, which made him have intense hallucinations and punch a door. And the room seemed to close in on his head, and David Neal had to restrain it. And then he and David Neal moved to Malibu, April, May of '68. Let's see the rest of the house now. And then, yeah, uh, he picks up Dennis Wilson as a hitchhiker and moves into Dennis Wilson's house. And a little while later meets Manson and Dean Morehouse there. And then August 29th is the date of the court case, but around 2 weeks around that date, him and Dean Morehouse travel in Terry Melcher's Jaguar back to wherever bloody Morehouse was from for his court case. And then he returns to Spine Ranch. And then the Candyman bus trip happens in November 1968, and that was believed it could be Charles Winans. They went to visit there. And then he runs away from the family and goes to stay with David and Rosina again. But David gets drafted, so he ends up alone with Rosina. And if there's any time when he was involved with bikers independently of Manson, it's got to be while he was living with Rosina. And then he ends up back at Spine Ranch between February and March 1969. The Belladonna incident happens in April 1969, end of April 1969. The last time David Neal hears from him is June 1969. And then on July the 1st, the Bernard Crow incident happens. And all the next ones after that are Cielo Drive and the Lobby Anchors, obviously. Yeah, just for anyone that missed that at the beginning. I didn't read it all out in much detail, did I? But I'll make that available for people to see it. Because no one else has done that yet. I don't think really laid out a heavy timeline like that. And so I didn't include the abortion rumour because there's not enough solid proof that happened and what month it was or anything. But presumably that would be in the time he was living with him. Well, it's debatable how soon they met her, Mark. Yeah. No one's saying she's the mastermind. People are just saying it was her idea to go to Cielo Drive because she had been bumped by them for this MDA. But no, she wasn't the mastermind. Yeah, it was her. Yeah, Linda was owed money by them, yeah. And I don't believe they went there intending to kill everyone at Cielo Drive as well. I think it was like the Hinman thing. They went to try and ask them for money, but if they didn't get it, then they would kill them. And I think that's what they did. I think they knew Abigail Folger, and they went up there to ask her for money. And when she didn't give it, they demanded the money that they owed for the MBA. And when they didn't get that, things got nasty. That is drug burn theory, basically. That's what drug burn theory is, yeah. That they went up as invited guests and there was an argument over money or drugs, and that's when it all goes wrong and they all kill each other. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Well, initially they could have pled with Abigail to give them money, but if she laughed in their faces or whatever or refused, then they got angry. And then they would, oh, shit, sorry, just going to kick the computer over. Got some minute. You can see the camera refocusing as well. It's not doing the moving around thing. I haven't got its drivers, but yeah, it's refocusing. It's AI. Yeah, that was it with that drugs. If you do well, it did say yeah, dangerous drugs. That one got stopped, didn't it? But they could have had other drugs in the house as well. Jay Sebring could have had drugs in his car too that they robbed. So maybe that's why they were outside. They'd taken Jay to his car to get drugs out, and at some point someone tries to run and it all goes wrong. Everyone always assumes it was Sharon that tried to run as well. But how do people know Jay Sebring didn't make a bolt for his car and planning to spin the car round and get Sharon to drive off? Yeah. Everyone always assumes it was Sharon that was trying to run. Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Used to people turning out wanting money out by voicing. Well, there's statements from people that knew them, isn't there, saying that Abigail funded everything for him. She bought all the drugs, and that he wasn't really a great drug dealer. He didn't sell much of what he bought, but Abigail Folger funded everything for him. Yeah. That's what Sadie said to Juan in the trailer. Yeah. Oh well, just ever since I first heard the theory that it was drugs, because like I say, we don't hear about much about the Manson murders really in the UK. Obviously, but whenever I did hear the official narrative, I thought, oh, that doesn't sound very likely. But I didn't really think about it much more either. And it was when I heard drug burn theory that I was intrigued to look into it. And I found out just what an insane rabbit hole the whole thing is. You know, it's like, oh my God, and it connects to so many other things. It's such a fascinating journey. Like I say, I've learned loads about American history and stuff like that, you know, that I never would have known before. But yeah, to understand this case, you have to understand the background it came from, you know, as well. What was going on around the time, you know, the context of why it happened. Yeah, Abigail. Well, I've always had a theory that she wanted to piss off her dad. She was one of these people that dated ugly, you know, undesirable men, like daddy issues, you know what I mean? She hated her dad, I think. It was to wind up her dad. That's just my theory, yeah. And apparently in the police report, her psychiatrist said that she thought she was getting ready to leave Bukowski. She wanted to leave him, but she hadn't yet. So that's bloody tragic as well, isn't it? Because they reckon Sharon was going to leave Raymond. She was just waiting to have the baby. And the psychiatrist says Abigail was going to leave Bukowski, but she hadn't plucked up the courage to do it yet. And yeah, if only they had, they might have still been alive for all of it. because I believe it was the men they were after. Well, Folger seems to get a lot more stab wounds than Jay and Sharon as well. It's Frykowski and Folger that seem to be the most violently attacked, if you analyse the amount of wounds they have. I know it's horrible to talk about, to debate which one was hurt worse. You know, they're all awful, obviously. But if you look at the number of wounds, Folger and Frykowski seem to be more attacked than the other two. And Parent was just killed out of necessity, it looks like, doesn't it? You know, to stop him from talking. Which suggests he recognised them as well, though, doesn't it? If they wouldn't have recognised them, then why did it matter if he got away? He must have known who they were. That's why they had to kill Parent, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah, what you think they were into slumming it? Yeah, that's it. Well, this is a thing as well. This is why rich men might have wanted to sleep with Manson as well, because he was a convict, wasn't he? He was like pimping himself out to these Hollywood guys that wanted a bit of rough or whatever. You know, the idea of sleeping with a sort of guy that's been in jail or whatever. Yeah. It's gross, but yeah, this is the real what was happening. You know, Peter Falk. Most people probably find that difficult to believe, but I can believe it. That Charles Manson slept with Peter Falk. Horrible mental image, though, isn't it? Charles Manson doing Columbo. My God. Yeah, well, this is the thing. The victims were outside, weren't they? Yeah, and I know there's a lot of debate, and I don't blame people for questioning it. But yeah, about whose blood it is outside and all that. But the report tells us that's Jay and Sharon's blood along the path. Load of Jay's blood on the porch. But they were definitely outside. Yeah, that's it. They all tried to run away at some point. It didn't go down how they told us. And there's no evidence they were tied up as well. No one had any rope bands on their wrist. No one's hands were tied after. Well, no, Sebring's hands had been tied together, hadn't they? But if you look at the photos, I don't show photos of the bodies, but you can quite easily find them. If you look at Jay Sebring's hands, they've been really loosely tied together with a shoelace. Like if he had still been alive when that was happening, he could have just gone like that and got out of it. They've been like really loosely tied. So it looks like someone was just, as they were trying to stage the crime scene, trying to make it look like his hands were tied. But, yeah. It's just, the whole thing is just off. The evidence that you see does not back up the story we were told in court. Right, well, this has run over an hour now, so I'll finish this and then I'll do an after show. If you want, give me 5 minutes. But thanks for coming, everyone. Oh, it's been a really good audience. There's 91 people here now. Yeah, well, make sure you subscribed and have liked the video as well if you subscribe as well. And if you are a subscriber, you can now post on the community tab, but only on your phone. I explained that earlier. I'll explain it again just in case people didn't see from the beginning. I'm sorry to do it in such a low-tech way. Right. But I couldn't be asked to do a screen recording of my phone and get it on camera. Right, you navigate to the channel and you won't see the button above. I only see that because it's my channel, right? Because there's a button that says View Community. And you hit View Community, and then hit Newest, and then you can see all the posts. And if you're a subscriber, you can post as well now. So if you don't do Facebook or Reddit or anything, there's a community tab people can use, and you can all talk to each other. Or ask me questions about like a non-specific thing that I haven't done a video about or whatever. Or just share whatever you want, whatever you share in the Facebook group or whatever. Yeah, excellent. Right, oh, have you only just got it? Oh, sorry about that. But I'm going to do an after show in a minute. I'll end this and I'll come back in 5 minutes to just watch for the notification of me going live again. Right. Yeah, I'll end this now to give myself a break for 5 minutes. I can stretch my legs, get more tea or whatever, and then I'll do the after show. Yeah, thanks for coming, everyone. Yeah, and like I say, like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you in a minute.